The late autumn sun hung lazily in the sky, bathing the wedding venue in a warm, golden hue. Strings of marigold flowers fluttered in the soft breeze. Laughter echoed through the garden as guests sipped champagne and waited for the bride to arrive. It was a perfect day for a wedding, one of those meticulously planned affairs where everything gleamed with joy. Except for him. Ravi stood at the edge of the gathering, just outside the white satin tent, holding a small, weathered gift box wrapped in faded gold paper. His once dark hair had turned mostly silver, and the lines on his face ran deeper than they should for a man of 60. His suit, while neat, was clearly out of fashion. He looked like a ghost that had wandered into a celebration for the living. Heads turned, whispers followed. Who is that? Why is he here? Did someone invite him? He ignored them all. His eyes searched the crowd until they landed on the altar, and the man standing there in a polished navy blue sherwani. Kabir, tall, confident, handsome, the kind of man people naturally trusted. He noticed Ravi instantly, and his smile faded. For a moment, their eyes locked, and then Kabir turned to his best man and said, loud enough for Ravi and half the guests to hear, "That old man has come again." The words stung like a slap across the face, again, as if his presence was an offense, as if he were some stray dog that kept returning no matter how many times it was kicked away. Ravi didn't respond. He stood still, his expression unreadable, clutching the small gift box as if it were the only thing tethering him to the ground. Then came the next sound that pierced him deeper. The orchestra began to play the bridal entrance theme. And there she was, Mira, his daughter. She stepped into view like a vision, draped in a crimson and gold lehenga that shimmered with every step. Her smile lit up the garden. People gasped at her beauty. The photographers circled her like moths to a flame. Ravi didn't move. He hadn't seen her in 7 years. 7 long years. Not since the day she looked him in the eye and told him to leave. Not since the day she screamed at him, accused him, shattered everything between them. His heart had aged in dog years since then. Every month stretched into an eternity. But here she was, still the same girl he once carried on his shoulders through monsoon puddles, who made him dance with her in the kitchen when she was 6. The same girl who used to sleep with her head on his chest and say, "Promise me you'll never leave me, Papa." He had never broken that promise, not really. Even when the world painted him a villain, even when she stopped returning his calls, he stayed away because she asked him to. Because she believed the lies. As she walked toward the altar, Ravi saw her glance around, scanning the crowd. For a brief second, her eyes met his. She stopped walking, a subtle hitch in her breath. Her smile faltered. Recognition, surprise, maybe even guilt. But she composed herself quickly, turning back to face the man waiting for her at the altar. Kabir, the one who had called him that old man. Ravi moved to the side, taking a seat on the last bench at the far end of the aisle. No one spoke to him. A few turned their heads, a few even glared. He wasn't supposed to be here, he knew that. But today wasn't about being welcomed. It was about truth. He opened the lid of the box slightly, just enough to check its contents. Inside were a few old photographs, a sealed envelope, and a worn USB drive. All tucked beneath a silk handkerchief Mira had embroidered for him as a child. He closed it again and rested it on his lap. He would give it to her before the wedding ended. He would tell her everything. Even if she threw it in his face, even if she never spoke to him again, because some truths cannot stay buried forever. Because some fathers don't stop loving, even when their children stop believing in them. And because Ravi Singh, the so-called old man, wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. The house had been filled with warmth and laughter once. There had been music on Sundays, shared coffee on the balcony, and the scent of his late wife's favorite jasmine perfume still lingered in Mira's room. After Anjali, his beloved wife, passed away from a sudden heart attack, Ravi had poured everything he had into raising Mira. She was only 14 when her mother died, a shy, intelligent, emotionally tender child who cried herself to sleep for weeks. But Ravi had been there, always, a single father with no blueprint for how to raise a grieving teenage daughter, but he did it anyway. Sacrificing late promotions, turning down business trips, attending every parent-teacher meeting, and yet none of it mattered in the end. Because betrayal doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes wearing the face of a friend. Nikhil Mehra, Ravi's best friend of over 20 years, his business partner, his drinking buddy, his golf companion. The one who called Mira princess and brought her chocolates every Diwali. After Anjali's death, Nikhil became even more present in their lives. Too present. It began subtly. Mira needs space, Ravi. She's growing up. Then it turned into, why are you so strict with her? You'll push her away. Then came the slow poisoning. You should have seen the way she flinched when you raised your voice. She's scared of you, brother. Ravi had laughed at first. But slowly Mira began to change. There were secrets in her eyes, coldness in her voice. She stopped coming to dinner. She locked her phone. She snapped at him without cause, and then one night everything shattered. The accusation Ravi came home late from work to find Mira crying in the living room, and Nikhil sitting beside her with his hand on her back. Her arms had bruises, faint but visible. I didn't do that, Ravi had said, his voice hollow with disbelief. But Mira wouldn't even look at him. She told me everything, Ravi. Nikhil had said how you grabbed her arm, how you threatened her when she came home late. She's scared of you. That's not true. I raised my voice once, when she snuck out past midnight. That's all I did. But Mira didn't speak. The silence was a sentence. The next day, she moved in with Nikhil. Ravi lost everything in the fallout, not just his daughter's trust, but also his company, his home, his social circle. Nikhil leveraged the situation to take over their joint business, manipulating the board to remove Ravi. It's a matter of reputation. He had said publicly, we can't risk having someone like him at the helm. There was no formal charge. No police case, just whispers, shame, and isolation. Ravi could have fought back, but he didn't, because Mira believed Nikhil. And he couldn't bear to see her dragged into a public scandal. So he vanished quietly, like a guilty man without guilt. Back to present, the priest was now chanting the final mantras. The sacred fire crackled as Kabir and Mira circled it in their seventh and final firas. Ravi felt a lump rise in his throat. She looked happy, and yet something about the groom's eyes unsettled him. Cold, calculating, too much like Nikhil. Ravi clenched his fist. It wasn't just instinct. It was knowledge. Knowledge he had gathered silently for years. After he left, he spent nights digging through the digital shadows Nikhil and Kabir left behind. Financial records, property deals, emails, social media posts, and what he found chilled him to the bone. Kabir wasn't some romantic prince who had rescued Mira. He was a pawn, trained, groomed, and positioned by Nikhil. Because once Mira married, her full share of Ravi's estate would legally transfer, and Nikhil had carefully placed Kabir to collect that prize. Mira wasn't marrying love. She was marrying a scheme. The ceremony was over. Applause erupted. Guests raised their glasses, and then Kabir took the microphone to make his groom's speech. To the love of my life, he began, his voice smooth. To Mira, who is not just my wife, but my future. People clapped, but then he added something that made Ravi sit up. And to those from the past, even the ones who have tried to come back to taint our moment, just know your time is over. A few heads turned toward Ravi. Laughter broke out, awkward and forced. Ravi's jaw tightened, so this was what it had come to. Not just lies, mockery. But still he didn't move. He waited, patiently, because the next part of the plan wasn't about drama. It was about proof. And Mira deserved to know the truth, no matter how late it came. The reception hall glimmered like a jewel box, strings of fairy lights twinkled from every corner, and the air was thick with rose-scented perfume, soft laughter, and the clinking of glasses. The celebration had moved indoors after the wedding, and the real party had begun. But beneath the glamour and gold, something darker pulsed beneath the surface. At a back table near the exit, Ravi waited. His hand rested gently on the small gift box, now smudged with fingerprints from how tightly he had held it all evening. He hadn't eaten, he hadn't spoken to a soul, he simply watched Kabir schmooze with the rich and powerful. Watched Mira dance, her smile faltering just slightly now and then, like her joy had a glitch in its software. And he waited for the moment, because the fairy tale was built on a lie, and like all fragile lies, it only needed the smallest crack to make it shatter. The confrontation begins as the first slow song faded and applause filled the room. Ravi rose to his feet. People noticed. The music quieted, not by design, but because silence has a strange way of following a man with nothing to lose. Ravi walked toward the stage, the box still in his hand. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Kabir spotted him first. "Security?" he said under his breath. But Mira saw him too, and this time something flickered in her eyes. Not anger, not confusion, something deeper, recognition, memory, maybe even longing. Ravi stopped at the edge of the stage. He didn't ask for a mic, he didn't raise his voice, he simply looked at his daughter. "I didn't come to ruin your day," he said softly. "I came to return something that belongs to you." He held out the box. For a long moment, Mira didn't move. Then, slowly, she stepped forward. She took it. The unraveling back in the bridal suite, hours later, Mira sat alone. The room was silent now. The air stilled. She opened the gift box. Inside, a USB drive. A bundle of old photographs of her as a child on Ravi's shoulders, laughing, wrapped in his jacket during monsoon season. A silk handkerchief, the same one she had stitched for him when she was 10, and a letter. The envelope had only one word on it, truth. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Ravi's handwriting was still the same, neat, careful, with small loops on the G.S., just like she remembered. "My Mira, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but if you do, I hope it's because you're ready to remember. I never hurt you, not that night, not ever. You were right to feel scared, but not of me. You were being manipulated by someone we both trusted. Nikhil used your pain to turn you against me. I didn't fight back because I knew the damage had already been done, and dragging you through courts, news channels, and interrogations would have shattered you even more. I've spent years gathering the proof I should have brought forward back then. I wasn't protecting myself. I was protecting your peace, but now I see you deserve the full truth, even if it comes late. The USB contains recordings, documents, and messages that will show you who Kabir really is. You may hate me after this, or maybe you already do, but I still love you. I always have. Papa, the truth files she plugged in the USB. On the screen, folders neatly labeled. Bank transfers, CCTV footage office 2017. Kabir plus Nick Hill messages board meeting, recording the deal audio. She clicked on the last one. A voice crackled through the speaker. It was Nick Hill, unmistakable. She's emotionally wrecked. She won't question anything you say. Win her over, get married, and once the inheritance hits, we'll reroute it through the trust. She won't know a thing. Then Kabir's voice, what if she finds out? Nick Hill laughed. From who? Her father. He's finished. Mira recoiled as if struck. The next files were worse. Screenshots of texts between Kabir and Nick Hill, mapping out every move, every lie, every manipulation. Even her wedding venue was chosen by Nick Hill, a manufactured dream, a real life con. The final video clip, grainy security footage from 2017, showed Ravi outside the boardroom, being escorted out by security, his expression a mask of devastation. She clicked through photo after photo of her, Ravi, her mother, the childhood she had forgotten in the fog of someone else's version of truth. Her father wasn't a monster. He had been sacrificed for greed, for silence, for her illusion of safety. The moment of reckoning, the music downstairs boomed again. The celebration had resumed, but not for Mira. She walked back into the hall like a storm wrapped in red silk. Ravi was gone. Kabir was laughing with guests, glass in hand. Mira walked up to him, calm and deadly. "You lied to me," she said. Kabir turned, confused. "What are you talking about?" She held up the USB. "I know everything. I've seen it all." For the first time, Kabir's mask slipped, a twitch, a flicker of fear. "I don't know what—" Mira didn't let him finish. "I believed in a fairy tale," she said, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "But it was built on my father's ashes. I won't marry a thief or a puppet." Gasps rippled through the hall. Cameras turned, phones came out, and Mira, graceful, composed, took off her wedding bangles and placed them in Kabir's hand. "You never deserved this wedding," she said. Then she turned to the crowd. "If anyone knows where my father went, tell him his daughter finally remembered." The wind outside the banquet hall had turned sharp. Autumn leaves scattered across the stone path as Ravi walked away slowly, each step heavy, as if he were leaving behind another piece of himself. He didn't look back. He never expected Mira to open the box. He didn't expect her to believe him, and he certainly didn't expect redemption. Not tonight, not ever. He just wanted her to have the truth before she vanished completely into someone else's world, a world designed by the man who stole everything from him. As he neared the parking lot, a security guard stepped in front of him. "Sir, someone's asking for you." Ravi's brows furrowed. "Who?" The answer came before the guard could speak. "Papa." The voice, soft, familiar, trembling. He turned. And there she was, Mira, no makeup, no jewelry, no bridal veil, just her. Tears welled in her eyes as she took a shaky step forward. "I opened the box," she whispered. Ravi said nothing. His throat closed. "I read your letter. I saw the files, all of it." She swallowed. "I was wrong. I was so wrong." She rushed forward and flung her arms around him, like a dam breaking after years of silence. "I'm sorry, Papa," she sobbed. "I didn't know. I didn't want to know. I wanted to believe I was safe, that Nikhil was looking out for me, but he wasn't. He was using me." Ravi's arms slowly rose and folded around her. His hands trembled as they cradled the daughter he thought he'd lost forever. "You were just a child," he said, voice cracking. "You did what anyone would do. You trusted the wrong person. But Mira, listen to me, none of this was ever your fault." She cried harder. And for a long time, they stood like that father and daughter, wrapped in the arms of truth, finally free of the lies that had chained them for years. The final confrontation back inside, chaos had erupted. Kabir tried to laugh it off at first, cold feet, he told the guests. But then Mira returned, still hand in hand with Ravi, her father. Cameras were waiting. She walked up to the stage and picked up the microphone herself. "I want to thank you all for being here today. This night was meant to be about love, and it still is, just not the kind you expected." The crowd quieted. Mira looked around, eyes clear, voice steady. "I was manipulated, lied to. The man I was supposed to marry was planted in my life by someone who has done nothing but poison my family for years. My godfather, Nikhil Mehra." There were audible gasps, phones lifted, recordings began. She turned to Kabir. "I have the evidence, all of it. I've sent it to my lawyer and the press." Kabir's face drained of color. "You won't walk away with my inheritance, or my name, or anything I built with my father. You're done." She turned to the guests one last time. "Some stories aren't fairy tales, but I'm not a victim anymore. I'm my father's daughter." Applause broke out, unsure at first, then thunderous. Kabir, humiliated, tried to leave only to be stopped by Mira's lawyer at the entrance. You'll want to stick around, the lawyer said, holding up a copy of a court notice. Consider yourself served. 1 week later, the headlines read like poetic justice: socialite groom exposed in wedding scandal. Billionaire daughter calls off wedding, reunites with estranged father. Ravi Singh, vindicated after 8 years of silence. The world now knew the truth. But Ravi didn't care about the world. He cared only about the sound of Mira's laughter again, real laughter, as they shared a quiet dinner on the rooftop of their old home. The same house he once left behind, now reopened, repainted, and reborn. Remember this spot, Mira said, pointing to the rusted railing. Ravi smiled. Where you threatened to jump if I didn't buy you a puppy, and you didn't. You're allergic to dogs. You still should have bought me one, she teased. He laughed, the sound scratchy but full. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I missed you every day, she whispered. I never left you, he replied. She looked up at him. Do you forgive me? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he took her hand, placed it over his heart, and said, I was just waiting for you to come home.